All right, so can Georgia's new quarterback, whoever that person is, uh, can they get the job done without a superstar wide receiver coming into this season? Because if you really look at where Georgia's at, this is the first time in a little bit of time that they've not had a really exceptional wide receiver coming back. I'm talking about George Pickens for the last 3 years was very good. Obviously, they knew they were not going to have George coming into last year, but they had, and I don't know if I would say AD Mitchell was a superstar, but boy, it looked like he was going to be pretty good until he started getting hurt at the beginning of the season. So the question remains: what are the challenges for Georgia's uh, new quarterbacks with this receiving group, and what are they really working with? I mean, does Georgia really have a superstar wide receiver? Because I don't think they do. I mean, none of these guys are Marvin Harrison, right? Um, and we've seen some exceptional wide receivers in the SEC lately. Nobody on Georgia's roster is that. Nobody on Georgia's roster is that. They're very good, but they're not that. And when you look at when you look at this group, there's a couple of guys that things could really change and they could step up and they'd be a lot better than they have been in the recent past. I will start on that list um, with Marcus Rosenjack Saint. Now, he appears to be someone that has the capability of being pretty damaging for defenses, but it's he's not put it together in a way that you're saying, oh, this guy for sure is the guy, can be the guy, etc. But he's got a lot. There's so many times when you're on the field and someone flashes, and it's Marcus Rosenjack saying it's not always, by the way, it's not always on offense. He makes a lot of plays on special teams as well. Uh, and then another guy who could be much better than we really consider, because Marcus Rosenjack Saint and Lab McConkey, another person I'm going to talk about, they both played in 15 games. Arian Smith played in 11, and he had 7 catches, y'all. That's it last year. But one of them was probably the most important catch of the season, that 76-yarder against Ohio State. Could Arian Smith really elevate where Georgia's at in terms of superstardom? I don't know. I don't know. He played only 4 games in 2015. So he's in 2020, he's only played 4 games that season. And according to Georgia statistics, he's only played in 7 games. He only played in 7 games a season ago. So Arian Smith's been dealing with, staying on the field. I mean, that's a pretty important, excuse me, 11 games, 7 catches. So that's a pretty important part of things. AD Mitchell's a really good receiver. He's not at Georgia anymore. He only played in 6 games. He scored 3 touchdowns. So, you know, it goes without saying that, Georgia's got some exceptional players at wide receiver. No, I do not think that they have, a wide receiver who is a number one wide receiver. But I mean, they have a number one wide receiver. His name is Ladd McConkey. But, Ladd is not George Pickens, is not AJ Green, guys like that. So he's a different type of receiver. He's all sorts of trouble. I'll tell you that right now. You know what else is troublesome? When you can't find something to eat that you want. That's where our friends at Doordash come in. Get 50% off your first Doordash order of up to a $20 value when you use the code DAWG, DAWG, at checkout. This is a limited time offer, and terms apply. Make sure that you're checking it out today. 50% off, $20 minimum. Subtotal $0 in delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store. Enter the code DAWG, dog, just like dog post. Don't forget the code is dog, DAWG, for 50% off of the first order with DoorDash. I mean, again, these guys can dash right down the field. I mean, look, almost all receivers are really fast. All right, they by nature on the field they look extremely fast, and they are. But Arian Smith's a next level fast. And so him staying healthy would be really, really important. Again, this program lost some really good receivers coming out of this thing. Kearis Jackson was very productive. A.D. Mitchell, I don't think I need to regurgitate all he did. A.D. Mitchell in these two championship seasons, this guy, there's a picture of AD Mitchell in every single moment. In dog instruction, the picture is AD going back on top. I'll flip to it again. There it is. Great picture. Was very fortunate to hit that shot. Just that's another story for another day. And then I'm going to keep the confetti inside the book this time. Hey, if you're going to get this book, you need to get it now if you want confetti. We're going to still sell the book, but the confetti's running out. Here's AD. I did not think this was an unbelievable shot when I shot it, but as it turns out, it was a pretty important. That's the game-winning catch. So AD, they lost him, but this guy right here returns. How are teams going to deal with Arian Smith? I mean, when you can take the roof off the thing, becomes kind of challenging. And I do think losing Darnell doesn't help the passing game. I mean, Darnell Washington was one of the best players in the SEC. He was a tight end, and most of the time, him being one of the best players involved him blocking like crazy. But he was also a weapon in the passing game. I mean, this guy's leaping over people against Missouri. Tried to against Oregon, he did. I mean, he's doing it against Kentucky in 21. He's gone. So that hurts Georgia. I mean, there's all there is to it. But I think when Stetson was your quarterback, there were some things you could do in the run game with him that if it's Carson Beck, you're not going to be as apt to do that. I mean, Mike Bobo is not going to be scared to run his quarterback. Aaron Murray ran plenty. He didn't run as much as he got older, but they were probably scared to death because Aaron, if he's watching this, can confirm. He about got his head knocked off in 2010 a couple of times. So they were probably concerned that, as big as and as kind of put together as Aaron is, you don't want your quarterback that's that gifted taking a bunch of shots. Carson Beck is gifted. Now, if it's not Carson Beck, you're talking about a different situation. All right. You're talking about a guy, whether it's Gunnar Stockton or Brock Vandagriff, the run game's going to be a problem for the other team. So that's something that, you'd and by the way, when when Mike was first calling plays, of course, his first quarterback was Matthew Stafford as an offensive coordinator. I mean, this is a guy that used DJ Shockley as a quarterback's coach. And then he went with Matthew Stafford. Both those guys could run. Matthew Stafford was what I would say it was a very good runner at times, and they used it. So if it is Carson Beck, I don't know how I've gotten on this subject, but if it is Carson Beck, then I would say, that's going to be used from here to there. But everybody inside the program that I talked to has said for some time now, even when JT Daniels was on the campus, they felt like Carson Beck was the most gifted thrower of the football, just passer. I think the challenge, and I'm not, I want y'all to really understand here. This isn't like some strange, I'm saying, I think what we're going to have to learn is if Carson Beck is a good quarterback, because we don't know that right now. We just don't. And we will get to know that in due time. But if he's a good quarterback, like the way he played against Vanderbilt in 2022, as well as some of these other games that he was in where he was actually throwing the ball, but the Vanderbilt game, the Oregon game, they really gave you insight into what Carson Beck's going to look like. And Carson's bided his time. He has developed. He has developed. So I think for me, it doesn't help that the receivers are not unbelievable in terms of they don't scare you half to death. The problem though is that they're not a weakness. They're not a weakness. Ladd McConkey is a load of trouble. And if one of these other guys I've mentioned can really kind of come with it over time, that's, Georgia's going to need that. Now, you can win the national championship with Ladd McConkey as your primary receiver. They just did that. I mean, Ladd McConkey was their best receiver a season ago. I mean, you could make the argument that Kenny McIntosh was their best receiver, but like in terms of the actual position wide receiver, It was Ladd McConkey. So, can you win the national championship? Yeah, of course you can. And then I want to see what Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint does because it's he's grown over time too. And I think he's a good example of who could be a really he could jump up and surprise and be the number one. I don't know. It's gonna be tough to knock Ladd out.